I think to be not just a good bodybuilder, but to be a good man, you can't just be physically, superior and in shape. You got to be mentally, smart too. You have to be intelligent. You have to make good decisions. And, so what that means is don't just be a meathead, y'all. All right. There's some great bodybuilders out there, and there's been some great bodybuilders in the past that have dominated on stage, but off the stage, once they're retired, they don't do well. You don't want to be that guy, right? So you want to use bodybuilding as a stepping stone to the next, chapter of your life, and hopefully do even better in the next chapter than you did on the bodybuilding stage. I think the greatest example of that is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arguably the greatest champion of all time in his era, especially he was the greatest. But he took that and used that as a stepping stone to get to the next chapter of his life, was being the #1 movie star on the planet. And then from there, he went on to politics, became governor, and had an amazing life. But he kept growing, and he was super intelligent. He never stopped learning, and he never stopped working hard. When one thing was over, he didn't just rest on that. He wasn't afraid to take a chance, step into something totally new and different, and get uncomfortable and work his butt off and rise to the top. So there's a lot more to life than lifting weights and eating chicken and rice, y'all. Trust me. And as important as you think that next contest is, in the whole grand scheme of things, it's not as important as you think it is when you put it in context of your family, your health, things like that. Number two, bodybuilding is not going to last forever. Even if you're fortunate enough to turn pro and do very well as a pro, it's going to come to an end one way or another. If you don't get injured, sooner or later, old age will get to you, and your time's going to be up. So you got to have something else to do when you're done. And so be smart about that. Have a career, get education, have a good job, start your own business. And so when bodybuilding's over, you got something to go into, and hopefully you do better in that next phase of your life than you did in the first one. So I think last year, my good friend Gasp came by, and he was here, and I'm in my office here at the house, and he looked around and saw the trophies and all the stuff, and I've got all kinds of, you can't see the walls, but I've got medals and memorabilia and stuff from all over the world. And he goes, dude, you realize the life you've had and the career you've had? And I don't think I really thought about it much until he said that. And I thought about it that night. And I'm very blessed. If I was to go tomorrow, I've lived more and done more than, I'm going to say 95% of the people on this planet. I've been to everywhere in the world, 60 plus countries, all 50 states. I've got friends all over the world. And I've had so many cool experiences, got to experience and see and do more things than I ever dreamed I would. And, so super blessed in that regard. And I got to do it all because of doing the sport that I love to do, and make a living doing it. So what more can you ask for, really? I've had a blast. It's been one hell of a ride, and some high highs, a few low lows, but all in all, it's been a lot of fun. And I'm just looking to see what tomorrow brings. So yeah, I'm super, super blessed and super happy with what I've done for the past, 25, 30 years. And just looking forward, hopefully I've got a few more chapters to write before it's over. Anybody that's achieved anything on a big national or even a world scale, they set the bar impossibly high. If you're trying to be Mr. Olympia, that's in your 17, 18-year-old kid, you're setting the bar impossibly high. Especially when you look back in the past 70 years or whatever it's been, there's only been a handful, I think less than 20 athletes, win the Mr. Olympia. So I set that goal for myself when I was 18, and I set win the Arnold Classic, to turn pro. I planned out my entire career when I was 18, and stuck to it. And I came up with a plan to get there. So, I had short-term goals, medium-term goals, and long-term goals. And through hard work, dedication, and consistency, I eventually got there. Are you going to have setbacks? Absolutely, man. Life is always going to throw you a curveball. Just when everything's on track and you're doing great, something happens. You get injured or something happens in your life, and, everything kind of falls apart. And then you got to pick yourself back up, put the pieces together, and keep climbing up. So that's life, guys. So life ain't fair. Bad shit happens. And sometimes the good guys don't always win. But that's life. So my life is very structured. And because without structure, I don't do well. If I wake up and just try to wing it, it never goes well. So my life is very structured. And I think that goes back to my childhood. I used to get up super early because I had chores to do every morning if I went to school. And, so it's always kind of been that way. And with bodybuilding, you have to be very regimented, very structured. You have to have so many meals a day. You train at a certain time, do cardio at a certain time. I eat my meals at a certain time. I practice my posing, all this at a certain time. And I knew 6 months to a year in advance where I was going to be, what I was going to be doing. You know, I had a schedule, my travel schedule, my pre-contest schedule. I knew what days I was training what, when I was taking off. And so I was very regimented, and I had goals, and I structured my schedule around my goals so I could meet those goals and achieve them. And maybe some people can wing it and get by like that, but not me. I think having a plan and having structure is essential for success.